In the Bible, there is a prophecy that talks about a future time when a special leader, known as the righteous branch of David, will come to bring justice and righteousness to the world. During that period, there will be peace and safety for the people of Judah and Jerusalem. This prophecy also mentions that the line of David's descendants will continue to have kings ruling over the house of Israel. Additionally, the Levitical priests will continue to offer burnt offerings, grain offerings, and sacrifices as part of their religious practices. It's essential to note that the term Third Temple refers to a theoretical temple that some people believe might be rebuilt in Jerusalem. However, there is no certainty or factual evidence that this will happen in the future. Regarding the end-time prophecies, the Bible does talk about events that will occur in the future, but the exact timing and interpretation of these prophecies are matters of various beliefs and interpretations among different religious communities. So while the Bible contains these prophecies, it's challenging to predict when or how they might be fulfilled. It's essential to approach these topics with an open mind and respect for diverse viewpoints. The Bible talks about a future time called the Messianic Age, where the Jewish people will be redeemed and returned to their land. During this time, a righteous descendant of King David, known as the Messiah, will reign in Jerusalem, and the temple will be rebuilt with its Levitical priesthood. Since 1987, there has been a movement in Israel to prepare for the possibility of rebuilding the Third Temple. This is seen as a spiritual endeavor by Orthodox Jews who believe they have a religious duty to bring back the temple. They don't believe secular Jews will be involved in the process, even though many Jews today are not deeply religious. Orthodox Jews have worked to revive the Sanhedrin, the religious council responsible for temple matters, and they are the ones who want to ensure the temple is reconstructed according to religious guidelines. It's important to note that the actual reconstruction of the temple remains uncertain and is a matter of belief and faith among religious communities. People have different perspectives on when or how this might happen, so it's a topic with diverse opinions. Orthodox Jews believe that rebuilding the temple is crucial because they think it's the only way to bring redemption to the world. Gershon Solomon, the director of the Temple Mount Faithful, leads an organization that aims to prepare Israeli society to support rebuilding the temple. They do this through demonstrations at the temple site, creating a cornerstone for the Third Temple, and making other temple-related items. According to Solomon, the reconstructing of the temple is essential to fulfill the biblical prophecies and complete the redemption of the Jewish people in their land. For Orthodox Jews, the Temple Mount is central to Israeli life, and without it, they can't envision the existence of the Israeli state or Israelis living in the land. However, not all devout Jews agree with this idea. Some have a diaspora mentality and see the fulfillment of biblical prophecies in a more spiritual, symbolic way. They are okay with the current political status quo on the Temple Mount, with Muslims in control of the holy site. The leaders of the Temple movement believe that the Jewish people are not living up to their spiritual potential because the divine presence, called the Shekinah, is not present in the world. Rabbi Chaim Reichman from the Temple Institute has made ritual vessels for the temple and trained priests for future service. He explains that the Shekinah is connected to the temple, and without it, the Jewish people cannot achieve their spiritual goals. Rebuilding the temple, according to these Orthodox Jews, is a solution to various issues affecting both the world and the Jewish people. The issue of the building of the temple in Jerusalem remains a complex and contentious matter, with significant historical, political, and religious implications. At the center of the dispute is the contested ownership of the Temple Mount, a site of great significance for both Jews and Muslims. The Temple Mount holds tremendous religious importance for Jews, as it is believed to be the location of the ancient Jewish temples, the first temple built by King Solomon, and the second temple, which was later destroyed by the Romans in 70 CE. For centuries, Jewish prayers and yearning for the rebuilding of the temple have been deeply ingrained in their tradition and beliefs. The desire to rebuild the temple has given rise to groups like the Temple Movement, who advocate for its reconstruction in modern times. However, the situation is highly sensitive because the Temple Mount is also home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, which are sacred sites in Islam. The entire area is referred to by Muslims as the Haram al-Sharif, or the Noble Sanctuary. It is believed to be the third holiest site in Islam, associated with the Prophet Muhammad's night journey. The competing claims over the Temple Mount have resulted in ongoing tensions and conflicts between Jewish and Muslim communities, leading to the imposition of certain restrictions. Israeli law currently prohibits Jews from praying at the site to avoid provoking potential violence and further escalating the situation. The restriction has been a source of frustration for some Jewish groups who feel that their religious rights are being curtailed. On the other hand, Muslim groups such as the Women in Black vigilantly monitor Jewish presence at the site and confront any attempts by Jewish visitors to pray there, as they consider it a challenge to their religious rights and sovereignty over the area. According to The Complexity, the international community has also expressed concern and opposition to Israel's claims in Jerusalem, fearing that any actions perceived as altering the status quo at the Temple Mount could ignite wider unrest in the region. However, recent archaeological discoveries have brought new dimensions to the debate. The findings from British archaeologist Robert Hamilton's report, dated 2010 but previously buried in the archives, indicate the presence of a Jewish mikveh beneath the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The mikveh is believed to have been used by Jews for ritual purification before entering the temple precincts during the time of the Second Temple. These discoveries challenge the Islamic authorities' assertion that there was never a Jewish temple at the location. Despite the challenges and opposition, some groups within the temple movement remain determined to achieve their objective of rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem during our lifetimes. Nevertheless, this ambition is met with resistance not only from Muslim communities, but also from various segments of Israeli society, as it involves complex political and religious considerations. The prospect of building the temple on the Temple Mount remains a deeply divisive issue, requiring delicate diplomacy, understanding, and respect for the religious beliefs and sensitivities of all parties involved. Any steps taken towards the construction of the temple will undoubtedly require careful negotiation and consideration of the broader implications for peace and stability in the region. The Sanhedrin, an organization focused on temple-related matters, has been preparing for the future resumption of temple services. One of their projects involves planting the biblical temple forest, providing the necessary agricultural resources for the third temple. Traditionally, people associate sacrifices with animals and blood, but Rabbi Hillel Weiss from the Sanhedrin explains that many sacrifices in the temple were actually derived from plants grown in Israel. The temple served as a connection between the land and the divine. The Sanhedrin, led by Rabbi Rickman, is also working to bring back the holy red heifer to Israel. According to Jewish tradition, the ashes of the red heifer were essential for purifying individuals to serve in the temple. During the First and Second Temple periods, only 9 red heifers were used for this purpose over about 1,000 years. It is believed that the 10th red heifer will be used by the Messiah in the future. To achieve this, Rabbi Rickman and other rabbis from the Temple Institute are collaborating with an expert cattleman in Israel. They're using a method involving the implementation of embryos from red Angus cattle, which are native in North America, under proper halakhic oversight and guidance. Bringing a red heifer from another country to Israel for the red heifer ceremony is not possible. According to religious rules, the red heifer must be born in the land of Israel and cannot have ever been used for work or yoked. The initiative for rebuilding the temple is the result of years of research by the Temple Institute, which combines ancient religious texts with modern scientific knowledge. The Sanhedrin and the Temple movement conduct reenactments of temple ceremonies to train individuals from the priestly class known as Kohanim. They receive specialized instruction on their duties, how to use specific ceremonial utensils, designed for the Third Temple, and practice sacrifices on a newly built altar. Since the people of Israel are required to build the altar only on the original location of Mount Moriah, also called the Temple Mount, this unique altar is designed to be disassembled and quickly reassembled at its proper permanent location. The plan is to reassemble the temple on the mount when the time is right, enabling the resumption of sacrificial services without delay. Orthodox Jews dedicated to restoring the temple believe that rebuilding it is the key to solving current challenges faced by the Jewish people and the world. The Temple Institute has been credited with reviving the ancient science of producing biblical crimson, a special dye used in the clothing of the high priest and the temple's curtains. This dye is also a crucial ingredient in the mixture blended with the ashes of the red heifer used for purification rituals. While the temple movement prepares for rebuilding the temple, its members acknowledge that some political actions are necessary to change the current situation, where the Temple Mount is under Muslim control, hindering Jewish access to the site. There are ongoing discussions and considerations in this regard. The Israeli Supreme Court recognizes that the situation on the Temple Mount is complex, sensitive, and challenging. It requires careful attention and understanding from all parties involved. The Temple movement continues its preparations for rebuilding the temple and is also focusing on reviving ancient practices, such as producing biblical crimson dye. However, political considerations are essential to address the current situation on the Temple Mount, as it involves sensitive and difficult issues. The dispute over the Temple Mount's not quickly resolved through a judicial ruling, as it goes beyond legal boundaries and touches on political and historical significance. Many people believe that the issue should be handled by the political leadership rather than the court system. The call that the Temple Mount is ours holds deep historical and religious significance for some, and its resolution requires a political approach rather than a strictly legal one. According to the prophecy in the book of Daniel, chapter 9, verse 27, there is a belief that a future political leader, known as the Antichrist in the book of Revelation, will enter into a deceptive covenant with the Jewish leaders, leading to the rebuilding of the Third Temple. This is seen as a future event, not something that has happened yet. One academic book on the politics of the Temple Mount suggests that representatives from the international community, such as UNESCO, and regional powers like the Arab League, NATO, the United States, the European Union, and Russia, should be involved as mediators and guarantors. This approach is aimed at addressing the international interest at the site, which is considered part of the heritage of humankind. The dispute over the Temple Mount involves deep religious and historical significance. Many believe that a political approach involving international mediators and guarantors is needed to address the complex issues surrounding the site's ownership and significance in the eyes of different communities and nations. The possibility of a future political leader playing a role in the rebuilding of the temple adds to the complexity of the situation. Finding a solution for the Temple Mount issue would require cooperation between different faiths and regional religious authorities. It may also involve religious leaders from various countries acting as mediators to help in the process. Some people who study biblical prophecy believe that after the Antichrist, there will be political and religious leaders who may support and bring to life such a proposition. This is seen as part of the anticipated events leading to the return of the Messiah. It is exciting to witness these developments in the land of Israel regarding the construction of a third temple. People eagerly awaiting the fulfillment of biblical prophecies closely observe how these efforts unfold. Resolving the Temple Mount issue would require collaboration between faiths and religious authorities. This is seen as a significant step in relation to biblical prophecy and the expected return of the Messiah. The developments in Israel related to the construction of a third temple are generating great interest and excitement among those who hold these beliefs. So, that was all about our video. We hope you found it informative. If so, please make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and press the bell icon for more updates.